Yes. So good morning, everyone. Welcome. I welcome the panelists and also the participants in this Outstanding Mobility Action webinar of 2021. I would like to thank everyone that is part of the webinar today. I think we are looking ahead a very interesting webinar showcasing the outstanding mobility actions of the year of 2021. And I'm going to show you the schedule for today. So we are starting with a welcome, which is happening now by me. I'm Balázs Németh. I'm a project manager at Police Network, and I was responsible for the organization of this webinar with my colleague Niklas Schmalholz. We are part of the European Secretariat of the European Mobility Week campaign. And one of our tasks during the year is to showcase the best mobility actions of the year. We are going to start with an introduction to mobility actions. What is a mobility action and how can you submit a mobility actions that have high chances to be chosen as an exemplary outstanding mobility action. And after we start the presentations of the mobility actions as such, we are going to start a presentation from Bologna, from the initiative Bologna 30. After that, we are going to have a presentation from Metropolis GZM and the city of Bitom. Then we are going to stop for questions and answer sections about the first two mobility actions. And after this short break, we are going to continue with a presentation from Kobla and the city of Östersund, followed by a presentation from VCT from Utrecht. And after, you are all going to have the chance to ask your questions, and the representatives from the mobility actions are gonna answer them. I would like to use all the participants to please use the Q&A section where you can ask the questions, and please mention who you are asking the questions from. Mentioning the city, the mobility action, or the name of the person, if you can remember. And we are gonna answer all of the questions asked by the audience. I also would like to let you know that the webinar is recorded for dissemination purposes. So if you don't agree, then you are welcome to leave the webinar at this point. Then I'm gonna continue with introducing to you what is a mobility action. A mobility action is a part of the European Mobility Week campaign. And during the Mobility Week campaign is an activity or an action to promote, in general, sustainable urban mobility. We are particularly looking at activities and actions which promote a behavioral shift towards a more sustainable urban mobility culture. Mentioning walking, cycling, the use of public transportation, the use of carpooling, mentioning all the sustainable and environmental friendly modes of transport. When we are talking about mobility actions, we are mostly searching for mobility actions that are more promotional rather than purely technical activities or actions. Of course, a mobility action can have a technical background, because nowadays, with a lot of innovations and developments in transport, a lot of mobility action can be supported with a specific application, with a specific software, but we are not searching for specific advertisements for these technical tools and softwares, but how those local authorities, companies, and NGOs who are submitting the mobility actions are using that tool to promote sustainable urban mobility on a local, regional, or national level. Who can submit a mobility action? All types of organizations can submit a mobility actions throughout the entire year, not only during the week of the European Mobility Week, but anytime during the year. The application for mobility actions is open for everyone. talking about groups of people, non-governmental organizations, social partners, research teaching institutions, local or national authorities, public institutions, and public-private companies. When can you submit a mobility action? As already mentioned, during the entire year, not only the week of the European Mobility Week. It can be a punctual activity, action limited to a specific day, for mentioning the car-free day during the Sundays of the European Mobility Week, but it can last for several weeks and months. It can be an initiative during the summer where you encourage people to walk and bike more in a region or in a city. If you are representing a local administration, local activities, what you are carrying out as a city, as a local administration, should be registered under the European Mobility Week category as a activity carried out as a mobility action as part of the European Mobility Week campaign. This year, we received 645 mobility actions, which is a bit lower number than during the previous years, but probably this was affected by the ongoing pandemic during the entire last year as well. So I guess local and regional authorities and all the bodies mentioned they didn't have the chance to organize something where people should have gathered physically. And it's, to be honest, it's difficult to organize a mobility action online. It needs the presence of people. It needs the community. It needs the participation. If you would like to submit a mobility action, you can always do that by the European Mobility Week website, which is mobilityweek.eu. And you can submit your application by completing an online form in English and also local language if relevant. If you go on mobilityweek.eu about mobility actions section, you can read about how does it work and what is it in for you. And you can see the application form, which is very easy to fill in. You just have to give a title for your mobility action, a small description in English. You have to locate your mobility action on a map. We would like to ask for your contact details and also channels to promote your mobility actions through social media platforms if selected as an exemplary mobility action. Why you should submit mobility actions? Because you can be part of Europe's biggest campaign in urban mobility, the European Mobility Week. You can get visibility on our website and increase the visibility for your mobility actions. As it's a great example for you, you have been chosen, the panelists who are present in this webinar have been chosen because they submitted an exemplary mobility actions, and now they have the chance to present their mobility actions during this webinar, and they are also going to be part of a social media competition, which I'm going to talk about a bit later. How to draft a good mobility actions. So I'm going to give a very brief tips what we look into when we are reviewing and checking mobility actions and choosing them to be exemplary. So for us, it's very important to have a precise and interesting title. You can, of course, submit your mobility actions with a title of Car-Free Day, but numerous mobility actions are submitted with the same title, so it's not gonna look at appealing to be chosen. We would like to know why is it interesting, innovative, why is different than other car-free days, why is it special, which innovative aspects did you put in this car-free day, why you did organize it in your own city. We would like to see why is it special. We also would like to see it in the title already, that where this car-free day have been organized, to locate the mobility action, because you can also specify the car-free day as such. Also, the next one, description in English. We would like to read very precise introduction of your mobility action, where you mention how, when, with whom the mobility action have been carried out, and also mentioning the innovative aspects of the mobility action. It doesn't have to be a long text. 1-2 paragraph is completely enough if you include the important information about the mobility action. We innovated the platform for the applications for the mobility actions very recently. So now you have more opportunities also to give more information about your mobility action from the social media and the online phase. So you can include social media channels of your mobility action, social media channels of the organization, that we have better chances also to disseminate it if we find it exemplary for us and for the European community, of course. We also created a new design for mobility actions in our website. We have been working on this during the past months. So now the exemplary mobility actions are better showcased on our website as well. As you can see, we created postcards for the selected mobility actions of this year, where you can click on this postcard, read an article about the mobility action, and you can find further links to read more about this mobility action as well. You can see an example from Bologna 30, who is going to present during today's webinar as well. You can see the basic information, why it was interesting for us, and you can click on the more information section to read more about the mobility action. And at this point, I'm not going to talk more about mobility actions because we have people who can really share their local experiences about what a mobility action means for them and for the local community. So first, I would like to invite Bologna 30 to present your mobility action.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I will quickly share my screen in order to make it visible for everyone. Thank you for including our initiative. I hope it's visible for everyone. Thank you for including our initiative between the best amazing mobility action of the Mobility Week. It's really a good pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to be inspired by the other actions. My name is Alessandro Marchi, and I'm here representing more than 30 association and citizen group and committees gathered around the project Bologna 30. Even if our core group is quite small, as you can see, we work hard to extend our collaboration with a lot of different groups and associations in the city. I must underline there is no help or connection with the administration, and it's all done by volunteers and for free. Bologna 30 is a citizens' initiative to push the new measure of Bologna, which is a city in Emilia-Romagna, Italy, to make it a 30 km/h city. I assume here that everybody knows what is a 30 km/h city is, so a more democratic and fair way to design our cities that lead to more safety, to a best environment, and helps sustainable mobility with a better environment, of course. We have thought of that kind of action for melting both an information and, let's say, promotion campaign towards the citizen and an instrument of political pressure next to the polls. Because we started the campaign in July, and we had the election in October. Let's go to the context. Bologna is a medieval city with an historical downtown characterized by narrow streets And it's also home to the oldest university in the world, which attracts more than 90,000 students, with a resident population of less than 400,000 inhabitants. The industrial areas surround the city, so workers are obliged to travel each day from east to west and vice versa, and creating a lot of traffic. The situation is worsened by the fact that the city is a major road junction between northern and southern Italy, driving even more traffic in the area. So despite having one of the best public transport systems in Italy, people rather not take the bus. Trams have been removed 50 years ago, even if a comeback is planned soon, and there is no metropolitan system, so probably the system won't be really considered so efficient in comparison to other EU cities. In Bologna, people are used to riding scooters or mainly driving cars. Italy has one of the highest rate of cars per person in Europe, and Bologna is not an exception because we have 614 cars per 1,000 people. So traffic jams are a part of every driver's daily commute, and looking for a car park can take forever. The city is flat and compact, so riding a bike or walking should not be that hard. But sustainable mobility is still seen as something for hippies, people who are not concerned about having a job or meeting or deadlines. And this is an absurd way of thinking we still have to work on a lot, really. So to resume, in Bologna, 58% of the trips are done by car, while the European mean is just 33, and in Paris is 25. The result is that traffic in Bologna is a complete mess, and the records of accident, deaths, and wounded related to mobility are heartbreaking. On average, we have 20 deaths and 2,600 serious wounded per year in the last 10 years. Also, all these accidents led to a big expense for public finances, of course, and citizens' health is put at risk by the level of air contamination and noise. Let's not forget that every death worth 1.5 million euro, and a serious wounded costs to the society about 200,000 euro. Well, to change deeply rooted habits, it's an hard job, but we decided to put ourselves forward, and we set up the campaign after seeing the effects of the 30 km/h limit in Brussels, where I actually live. And after yet another dramatic car accident involving a young girl in Bologna, you can see in the slide the flash mob organized at the beginning of July. We decided to start. So we gather a very small team of volunteers, all communication professionals, and we started collecting scientific evidence, data, statistics, and good practices from towns and cities around Europe that already gone 30 km/h, such as you can see, the entire Spain, Paris, Brussels, Nantes, Lille, Grenoble, Graz, Helsinki, and so on. Of course, even the United Nations included the 30 km/h city into their goals for the decade of road safety. So the context is perfect for this kind of action. So we went online the 20th of July with what? With a website and some accounts. All these pieces of information have been elaborated and collected into a website, www.bologna30.it, where it's also possible to find our answers to the most common questions and doubts. Of course, we have been spreading the campaign around through a Facebook page and an Instagram account, without forgetting some press releases. Our first aim was to give citizens correct information about what was going on abroad in terms of urban living and transportation, and engage, of course, politicians and policymakers. So we produced a series of advertising materials to make the people aware of the big advantages of a 30 km/h city. The advantages a city like that can bring, such as the reduction of the mortality rate, less noise, less pollution, and so on. Bologna 30 gathered around the project more than 30 committees and associations, and is now collecting signature everywhere in the city, under signing a petition that asks the mayor to go 30. And we have really to thank our volunteers, because they are every day involved into a campaign on the streets. As you can see, we have a dozen of permanent locations, such as bookshop, bike garage, restaurant, pizzeria, whatever, collecting signature constantly, while our volunteers attend public markets, local fairs, the city center during the weekend, and present the campaign in some small and major public events. We are collecting thousands of signatures. Well, the information system responded. Those are the three main journals we have in the city. Everybody reported the news, and the debate started. We can say we have been lucky, or maybe our timing has been just right, because our political pressure worked, in fact, out pretty well. Because the politician who was later elected as new mayor put our proposal on his agenda during the electoral campaign. As you can see here, the man on the right is the person who has been elected some months later as new mayor of Bologna, and he signed our proposal. So, of course, this has slightly changed our target, which is no longer collecting signatures, but especially raise awareness in the citizens and begin watchdogs for the administration to keep on maintaining their pledge and commitment to the 30 km/h city. Now, as you can see, I know Italian is not good for everyone, but now the administration is really committed to effectively launching Bologna 30, and our current target, as I said, is to make sure the promise will be accomplished properly. Through our social web pages, direct talks with the people, we find out that this subject resonates with many other activities all over Italy. So actually, we are now expanding our network and exporting this initiative into other cities. It's a tough job. People is scared about predominancy of motor vehicles, but we hope to inspire someone. So we are available to share our knowledge, materials, and we love to help out other with our expertise. All other experience you can repeat into other cities. We would like to help out. So if you are interested, feel free to contact us. And yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Waiting for your opinion and questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alessandro. Congratulations again for your local initiative. And the next presenter, it's going to be Marcin from Metropolis GZM and the city of Bytom. Marcin, the floor is yours.
Hello, welcome everybody. And my name is Marcin Domański. I'm Deputy Director of Transport Department in Metropolis GZM. It is a metropolitan authority in one of the biggest metropolis in Europe. We are post-industrial after coal mining and some other industries. Region with many problems, social problems, and also transport problems. And I want to share the story with you about our prototype rearrangement of traffic at Miarki Street in Bytom. This was done this year, and this prototype was introduced during the Mobility Week, but the preparation starts in the spring. This was April of this year. So now for the first, the context. We are really strange metropolis and metropolitan area. We have 2.3 million of inhabitants. We have 41 municipalities and 9 cities which are over 100,000 of people. And I like to explain how complicated area we are by these graphics. We can see here a building block which is on the border between two cities. So if you go to the bathroom, for example, you are in the other city, because borders are often so dense between the cities because of our history. Our history is that there was a lot of industry plants in 19th century, and every industry plant have own, let's say, small city. So this was 15-minute city because all workers have their homes near to a job. And nowadays we have a problem because we are now post-industrial. So the industry is a little bit different than even 30 years ago in the communist time in Poland. But we have to look at the traffic because it changed also a lot during these times. So the Bytom is one of the cities, and I think that this is the city with maybe the most problems in whole metropolis. So this is the context that in here we have, like, as a metropolitan authority, we are a public transport organizer, but we are not just the governance of the roads. There is 50 road authorities in Metropolis, so it is hard to make one big public transport and mobility policy for whole Metropolis. So in one of our tasks is to create a sustainable urban mobility plan, and generally we think how to make it realistic in this complicated environment. So we create the model of the metropolis with data. We see that the most of journeys takes 13 minutes, and we have also some part of smaller journeys which are the 15 minutes one. So the 15-minute city is here, but it is often also created by car travels. So we decide to create this model like we have the districts of the cities. They are in different administrations, but there is a lot of districts and a lot of centers, because 41 municipalities, each one has own center. So we propose to the district to create real 15-minute city to create this modal shift, as I show you on this screen, that pedestrian is first, second is bicycle and public transport further, to create as in Bologna, speed limits and traffic calming inside these districts. In the city centers, which are also districts, there is a problem with accumulation of vehicles, because, as I said, previous model of Metropolis was that there was housing estates by the power plant, by the factories. Now we have that kind that people travel to two centers or even more, and there is this modal shift towards a few of the centers. So we propose there paid parking zones for districts which have a function of the center. And between these, because we have quite large distances, we propose and we work under the Metropolitan Railway. So this rail is the biggest project of Metropolitan Authority. But let's concentrate on the center, on the district, because this was the topic of our prototype rearrangement. So the traffic calming was the aim of this project. But what is more important that, as I said, 50 road authorities, how to integrate them, how to make one group with these people and work together on one mobility policy for the whole metropolis. It is not easy to gather all and discuss by the table about how to create mobility more sustainable. But we find out that it is better to focus on one project and to gather all the officials from different cities in interdisciplinary group, which is also the spirit of creating sustainable urban mobility plans in one project. So we create the group in April with officials from 7 cities and consist of traffic engineers, public transport specialists, pedestrians officer, social participation facilitators. And this was great idea because after this process, this group is like leaders of mobility inside Metropolis, and we could work with a group which was created naturally without any pressure to create our mobility plan, to create standards about traffic calming. So this was, as a metropolitan authority, this main aim of this project. But looking from the traffic in Bytom, there was one, because we had to find some project for this group. And we find out that one of the biggest problem was the traffic in the very center of the Bytom in Miarki Street. So we know from road authority in Bytom that there is existing bypass. There is more than 60% of traffic in this transit, and there is dense urban conditions. It is very centers of the city, so it should be a road for all, not only for the traffic. It is one direction road, because it is part of the ring of the old city in Bytom. So we create this group, we choose the project, and we create the diagnosis by asking citizens what are the problems on this street, and by make some measurements of speed, of traffic flow, and generally qualitative and quantitative measures. So we diagnose that there is even up to 126 kilometers per hour. So this is like a highway in the very center of the city. There is quite noisy there because 63.7 decibels inside in home, and there is a quite big traffic flow. There is 1,400 cars per hour in the peak hours, but you know, it is like highway, not like a city center. So we make this diagnosis with these people, and then we start to design based on that prototype solution for that. So the prototype, it means that we want to avoid high cost before final investment, to check with this prototype if everything is okay, if we don't need corrections, because if we start with investment at once, it could be quite expensive to correct something. So this is also good for times when the budgets are not so high for these issues in Poland. So it costs only 15,000 euro. And we make this prototype only with paintings and signs for the test period. After that, after corrections, the investment is of course needed there to create final solutions. But this is the spirit of this prototype. And this project, which was created together by these people from 7 cities, they meet weekly over these few months, and it was incredible because they want to stay, they want to it was during their job time, but it was not so easy to write to the bottom each week, because we have this quite large distances between the cities. So I think that diameter of our metropolis is like 50 kilometers. So you know, but the work under this project was fun, and what we have reached in this project. So we create extra pedestrian crossing, because this is only like plan of the city, but plan of the street, but the street is about 1 kilometer long. And we create also a curved line for traffic calming, so you cannot go straight. You have to slow down and bypass the parking zones. We add a two-way bike lane, because still this street is only one way, one direction, and we create more parking spaces. For also the aim of that was to let's say calm the traffic, to make this curved line by these new parking places, and to get support of citizens. They need these parking places, and they want to calm the traffic. So in the future, of course, the paid parking zone will be there. So it could make together good solution. So this was our project. And when we start to paint this prototype, we start also to check the results. If there is our goals are if we achieved our goals. So we called it prototype because of way of as I said 2 slides ago, the 2 slides previous, that prototype means that we want to put the money on the investments without checking something. And the second thing is that this could be prototype for all similar roads in the metropolis, in different cities in metropolis. So this is a picture from the beginning, when this street is getting narrowed to 1 lane. And yes, the results. We checked the results, of course, and we achieved a drop of average speed from 62 kilometers per hour to 41. There is 400 cars per hour less. Maybe they discovered that the bypass exists, because the bypass is, if you take a journey by the bus pass, it is a bit longer distance than if you cross the city. And generally, this project was accepted by the street residents, because we asked them, we create similar polls and similar surveys with them. Still, we work with this group of people from the 7 cities. We create everything by us, not using external resources. So it was also something which create this project cheaper. And we have plenty of statistics, but this one is, I think, most interesting from all of that. There is on the street speed limit 50 kilometers per hour as this urban area, and we checked dropped how this speeds on average dropped during a whole day. So we see that there was some even 20 kilometers per hour during peak hours, because there is still a lot of cars on this street. And of course, if this project could take a little bit longer, probably more cars will search, more drivers will search the alternative roads. But this aim to calm the traffic was achieved. In terms of average speed, when we see maximum speed, there is one peak of still you could drive there more than 100 kilometers per hour, but it is probably that most of traffic calming issues was done by this curved line and playing with parking places. Maybe in during the night, there is a lot of empty spaces, so then the cars could still ride with high velocity in the night. But after final investment, it could be better, and it could be this maximum speeds also could be lower. There was also a discussion about it in social media. There was social media pressure. There was, for us, these citizens of the city was like our allies in that fight about this street. But there was also opponents that they ask about traffic jams. So this was mostly people who travel just as a transit city. So for us, it was most important to make this road livable place, because it is very center of the city. But some of the people, some of the citizens want to something different. So so to make this street still the traffic transit street, and there was a conflict in social media. Of course, we find out some problems to solve with maybe not with traffic jams, but with some junctions and how to repair this. That's why we create prototype to find out what is the problem in our project, not investment at once, just to take it. And there was a lot of controversies. Here we see this meeting with citizens, and there was, let's say, very high pressure discussion upon that. And the project is end. The prototype, the mayor of Bytom chose some compromise between our proposition and what was generated by this social media pressure. But generally, this kind of prototyping is a success for us as a method of work with officials from district. From different cities. So we plan to choose this method for next our priority projects, and to create similar group, which we called Metropolitan School of Prototyping. So we plan to open next classes in different topics. So in public transport in the city of Sosnowiec, and when talking about paid parking zones in the city of Tychy. And when we working upon this project of traffic calming on Miarki Street, we created a sustainable mobility unit within Department of Transport in Metropolis GZM. And our spirit is now to create mostly this school of prototyping, because we see that this is a good method to networking of officials from different town halls, and to manage somehow one policy of mobility for whole metropolis with 50 road authorities. So I think that we are. This is a great honor for us to be with you, and that we are just to represent. We are in the 5 projects outstanding mobility actions in Europe, and two things I want to emphasize at the end, that the most valuable thing was here the people, this group, and the fun which we have during work on this project. And improvements was obvious. Unfortunately, we have to do some compromise between this what was proposed by us and this what was proposed by social media. But in general, we make a step further, and we want to continue with this method in the future. And thanks for that. It is a great pleasure to be with you today. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Marcin. Very interesting initiative. Congratulations for it. And indeed, now we are gonna have a short break to answer the questions what the audience have asked about the two first mobility actions presented. So we have a question from Roberto, also to Bologna and Bitom. Have you also considered projects to reduce parking spaces for the cars in most pollutant areas of the city?
Well, if I should answer now, we are pushing for a 30 km/h city, which is naturally a way of imagining and transforming the city that leads to have more public spaces dedicated to sociability and bike lanes and public spaces instead of parking. So it's natural for our proposal to propose to reduce parking spaces, even if it's not our job, it's not our duty. We are pushing for the projection itself, and later there will be a technician to individuate the exact technical solution. So we hope to see less parking and more public spaces, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcin,
Yeah,
anything?
and from our side, as you see, we proposed more parking spaces on this street. It was not so much more parking spaces, but if you want to, you know, this is like a fight for this street, and if you want to get attention of the citizens, you have to propose them something instead of reduction from 2 lines to 1 line. So these parking spaces helps us to calm the traffic. So this was a paradox, but in general, yes, we have in our first like steps in sustainable urban mobility plan, our parking policy is important in this document, and we want to create all city centers with paid parking zones, with good created paid parking zones, because this price in our cities is too low it should work. So in general, yes, we want to reduce parking spaces somewhere, but sometimes we need them to calm the traffic and to get attention of the citizens. So we have to play with those two tools. And this is my answer. Thanks.
Thank you so much. There is another question from Michal. A question to both participants. Yeah, he's asking about the overall costs, but I prefer not to ask this question because this is not relevant for us now. I don't see other questions from the audience. Please feel free to ask your questions, but I have a question also first to Bologna. If you also put some measures to actually measure with statistics if your road deaths in the city were reduced by your initiative, or do you have any numbers to prove that your mobility action was effective in the local territory? And also, if you received any conflicts on a local level from the representation of car drivers.
Well, our initiative is not in place, actually. I mean, we are still collecting signatures and we are still pushing on the administration to start effectively the 30 kilometer per hour city. So we have no statistics, of course, because the city is not ready at the moment. We have not started. Our success is to have been put into the agenda of the administration this topic, and to have seen their interest and their will to start and to be a 30 kilometer per hour city. So at the moment we have no statistics. Of course, we have received a lot of contrasts when the breaking news has been published by the newspapers. You can imagine on the social media, most of the reaction were against, even because it's hard to explain how it is a 30 kilometer per hour city. Most of the people start thinking at 30 we are going to lose a lot of time, to waste a lot of time. And so it's quite difficult to go against this kind of prejudice. And what we are doing is trying to show the people that those kind of cities works all around Europe, and we don't see any reason why they should not work in Italy, especially in contexts like ours, where the city is quite small, compact, and flat. There's no reason to not to use this kind of city because the results are very good everywhere, and we think we can have the same results with a better urban spacing shaping. So yes, a lot of conflicts, but they are prejudice. We try to fight prejudice with data and statistics.
Good luck for that, and also good luck
Thank
for
you.
the signatures to make your initiative a reality.
Thank you.
And I have also a question to Marcin, that you are involving a lot of stakeholders. You mentioned this interdisciplinary group you have, that you are cooperating together to make things happen. Do you have any good example or tool or any ideas for other representatives here, if they want to keep together these stakeholders in one group to really make things happen? What is your opinion is the best way to communicate between the different stakeholders?
To choose the small group, as I said, some people, and when I remember recruitation for this project, we choose the cities which we know and know some officials. So this group consists from people in partially which we know previously, to know how is how we could work with them, and add the second half of new people. So and the second one thing was to make the gender balance as well, because the women has great social competences, not only engineering competences, and these work very well. And to make one group from these people, it take a time, because it was weekly meetings from April to October. Most important thing was to make the dinner each day, and the pizza was the main thing which integrate the group during these meetings. So I recommend to start such a complicated project with some focus group, a focus project. Then you could go further to changing whole the city, whole the metropolis. But it is point of view of local authority. So we have these tools to collect these people. I was previously in NGO as well, and fighting for the better public transport. So the methods are other. So I like this project from Bologna, because it is I like the spirit from NGOs. But if you are authority, you have the power. But we are metropolitan authority with not so much competences. Competences of governing roads are still in the cities. So we could do some kind of group, and I recommend to make focus group, focus project, and start with one one maybe not so easy because there was a lot of social pressure with this project, but to collect different people and try to build something incredible. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, and most importantly, order pizza.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for your answers. We are moving on with our presentations because of time constraints. So our next presenter is going to be from Kobla and the city of Östersund. So I would like to ask John Magnus Karet to start your presentation.
I will start now. Yes, first of all, I would like to thank the European Secretariat of the European Mobility Week for nominating our action as one of the 5 most outstanding mobility actions for 2021. That's a great honor. It's also really inspiring to see and also hear what the other contestants have to share. It's really interesting. My name is Jon Magnus Skare, and I'm a product and market developer in Kobla. And with me here I have Rasmus Gelsson from Östersund Kommun, which is the municipality of Östersund. Kobla, where I come from, the company I come from is the company that created this Resvis app that has been used as a tool to help people travel more eco-friendly by giving people points based on their travels to help people travel more eco-friendly, as I said. So our mobility action was therefore named Earn Points on Your Eco-Friendly Travels in Östersund. Östersund is located at the latitude of 63 degrees north. Naturally, this means that the weather conditions will vary. From a nice and comfortable temperature in the summer down to -5 to -10 degrees in the winter. The inhabitants in the city area or in around the city is about 35,000, but in the municipal area it's about 65 to 70,000 inhabitants. Despite the weather, is it possible to nudge the people of Östersund to travel more sustainably with transport methods such as biking and walking? That's what we want to try to find out. Luckily, both economic and health benefits for the individual, and this overlaps with benefits for the environment. So we believe that this represents a golden opportunity. The Resvis app is an app that gives you an overview over your daily travels. The app log your travels and then detect which means of transport you are using. It starts and stops your travels by itself, so the user don't need to do anything. The app uses sensor technology and the GPS and motion sensors and stuff like that to detect if you're riding a bike or if you're driving your car, and also when you're traveling from home to work, it will also detect that. But Kobla cares about privacy, so the travels get encrypted and the data is anonymized. So we won't sell the data, and it's completely anonymized and randomized, so you can't be tracked back to you. That's really important for us. So your daily travels will generate statistics from the travels you are taking, and you will be awarded points based on how sustainable your travels are. So for instance, if you're riding your bike, you will get, as we see here in this example, 238 points, while if you take the same trip with a car, you will only get 24 points. And the statistics, as I said, you see that in the left picture here, the car used 664 grams of CO2 emission. So that's not very good. So we will try to motivate people to use other measures of transport. So that's what we'll try to motivate you from being a car user to start using your bike or the bus. And we used, as I said, points. for this to motivate people. On the right side here, we also use a scoreboard, so you can compete against your friends or family to make it more fun, and also to make it more fun for people that are like their car and like to drive. They probably don't want to start using their bike for no reason. So some people are driven by competition, other by costs, and other by the environment. But a lot of car users don't necessarily think about the environment. So we have to use other methods to motivate them. So we use gamification as a method to motivate and inspire users to travel more eco-friendly. Not just with the points, as I said, and physical prices, but also with intangible prices and acknowledgements. So based on your travel habits, the app will give you challenges to help you travel more sustainably. It could be a car-free day a week, and if you get a car-free day a week, you will get a badge for an acknowledgement for your great accomplishment that you didn't use your car. So as we see here, there's a cycling moose because the moose is in the municipality weapon, for instance. And we think that if you try to motivate people to do this over a longer period, as you see here, that's one car-free week, and then you have a second car-free day during a week, and the third car-free day during a week. So that's what we're trying to motivate them with. We also use other badge achievements, so people can explore and collect badges for the fun part. It could be like this little brain here. That means you have traveled 400 kilometers sustainably. And we also motivate the users with the acknowledgement and instant positive actions and stuff like that. Yes, Rasmus.
Thank you, Jon. My name is Rasmus. I'm representing the city of Östersund. And during the European Mobility Week, the Resvis app promoted other mobility actions in Östersund with a news feed inside the app, along with a treasure hunt to go to the different mobility events in the city. We had, for example, the inauguration event for new electric bus routes, registration for our winter biking campaign called Vintertramparna, a climate seminar yearly hosted by the region and the city, local food city market, yeah, as examples. You can change page now, Jon. Thank you. We also use the application to show where to find our give outs to people visiting those locations by sustainable travels. We have yearly done this on different places in the city. The citizens receives chocolate for sustainable travels if they travel like with the bike or walks or take the bus. And all these locations could be found in the Resvis app. And the locations was bike lanes and bus stops and things like that. The use of the Resvis app is part of a project that has been going on for the last year in Östersund. We have used different test groups during this period that have used the application. But during the European Mobility Week, it was the first time the app was made available for all the citizens. And that was a great occasion for us to launch Resvis to more people and helping them to travel more sustainable and reduce traffic, reduce emissions and road dust, and as well as becoming active in their daily travels.
Yeah. So this is an example of how we showed this through the app. We have the app is also a MaaS app, mobility as a service. So we have this map function that we can place on different locations. So the diamonds showed on the map is where you could find those different mobility actions during the week. So when you went there, you will also get points within the app, and the points can be used on to cash out gift cards and other things as well for the rest of the year. Yeah, and this is other municipalities in Norway and Sweden that are using this Kobla and Resvis app to promote being sustainable when it comes to mobility actions, and also in your daily life, to try to promote using your car. No, don't using your car, but start using your bike and your feet. Thank you for listening, and it was a great honor to speak to you and to share what we have been doing. Thank you.
And thank you so much for the presentation as well. We are hopefully the audience going to have some questions after the fourth presentation for your mobility action. But now I would like to invite Anne-Marie from VCT from Utrecht to present her mobility action.
Good morning. I hope you can all hear me.
Yes.
Oh, excellent. I'll just start my presentation. Share my screen. Just checking, can you all see my presentation right now in full screen? Perfect. Goes right in one time, excellent. So my name is Anne-Marie Boerenboom. I'm one of the founders of WeCity. And during the Mobility Action Week, we worked on designing the new mobility hub. So actually, it's a word you hear a lot. It's kind of the new buzzword in town lately. A lot of countries, cities, companies are currently working on mobility hubs, e-hubs, or how do you want to call them? They all see a great potential in this new solution. It might be an effective solution for integrating zero-emission mobility solutions in towns. It can also offer great flexibility for mobility solutions, which uses less space than, for example, parking spaces for cars, which is, of course, a big issue in cities. But it can also overcome transport poverty in more rural settings, where it's a challenge to keep, for example, public transportation going on a continuous rate, on a continuous deployment during the day. Just shortly before I go into what we've done, some information about what is actually a mobility hub. Well, Mobility Hub is actually a place where there are different facilities come together, where in basics it is meant to share mobility, to transit your mobility needs, from cars to bikes, from cars to public transportation. But it's actually much more than that. It's a place where you can also maybe get your parcels or order some food, get your groceries delivered. And what we see is that there's actually 3 types of mobility hubs existing right now. So we have the smaller mobility hubs, which are located right in the city centers. They are the smallest of the 3. And they're focusing mainly on the transit between bikes and public transportation. There's less focus on cars there, and it's mainly used by the young and the urban who want to have a high frequency of mobility. They actually want to have mobility available at their fingertips. Then we have the second zone, actually, which is the area just around the city center, the city district. So this is actually a mixture of the 2. On one hand, there are still a lot of people who have a car there, who travel with cars to their work, but the people also use the public transportation, bikes a lot, going to the city center or in their near environment. So it's mainly citizens, young professionals or young families who work there, use it for their work. And then we have the third one, which is more in the outskirts of the cities. It's more focused on the suburbs and the region around the city, where the focus is more on the cars. So a lot of people come actually by car to this hub and then transit to either public transportation, mainly public transportation, sometimes bikes, but it's in less high volume as, for example, in city districts or the city center. This is mainly more families, people who actually normally plan their trip before they're going, where city centers is more spontaneously. People just want to have mobility available. Just so we know where we are talking about, so what kind of services does a mobility already just gave some examples. It can be a mixture of different services, also depending on the location and the type of mobility hub. So a lot of talks right now in combining logistics with personal transportation. So can we get a parcel delivery, but also electric charging, car sharing, bike rentals, places where you can get some food, but also a taxi stand, maybe a place where you can also do some work on the go. Parking is, of course, important, especially in the zone 2 and 3 mobility hubs. And so this is basically where people are focusing on right now by developing a mobility hub, and which services can we all add to this mobility hub. Now, what we see is that a lot of these developments are also all focusing on actually a happy flow for everybody. We're looking at one group of people using these hubs, where of course this is not the case in reality. We also see that the hubs right now are mainly focusing on sharing or rental mobility, where you rent it at a fixed place at the hub, you go to place B, then you come back to place A to return your car or your bicycle. It's the most easiest way, of course, but the question is if it makes sense in a city where more and more we don't have fixed routes to take, and we maybe want to go from A to B, but then not back to A, but we want to go to place C. So how do you work around with this free flow of transportation, where you can actually pick it up where you need it, leave it, and then continue your journey? And another thing is, it's right now very based on a closed system. What we see is a lot of cities experimenting with mobility hubs. They appoint a few companies or have a concession for a few companies who can deliver the services there. And it's quite a contradiction, actually, because in all other visions, we are actually working on open ecosystems, collaboration and making it worthwhile for everybody, and also for companies to enter in this mobility hub. So this is very difficult right now, and of course, we are just starting with the whole concept of mobility hub, and it's something that needs to develop in the coming years. But just offering the services on the hub, it might sound very easy, and actually it's not. It comes with a lot of questions that raises when you're offering these services together, because what your aim is, what you want is to offer a seamless travel where the hub is not an obstacle to wait for your other travel to start, but it needs to be seamless and actually worthwhile to use a mobility hub instead of not using it, which means you need to connect all the different partners, suppliers of this mobility hub. You need to connect their data and their services together, so you know when buses are leaving, how many cars are still available, can you rent a bike over there? It also raises questions on safety and security, of course. How can you share the data with the right people? And again, this is still focusing on the happy flow. But what if you are a parent, you want to rent a bike, but you have a small child, you need a bike seat for your child on the back. Or if you want to rent a car, but you're not familiar in the city, you want to have a navigation system to rent. So those are additional features which, still big groups will need them, and they're not catered for right now in the mobility hubs because they're very standardized and for the general public. So it becomes quite complex actually to organize all this, and a lot of parties involved. I try to just visualize a little bit how does the complexity of mobility look like. So this is kind of it. If you have an open system, which ideally would be the case in a mobility hub, you would have different apps of points where you can order or reserve your seat for the transportation. You need to make payments, can be with different parties, the reservations, and then there are different services who need to have the right information, and they need to exchange information between each other. Because, for example, if you want to transit from bus to bike, once you're in the bus, you want to know, okay, if I arrive at the mobility hub, can I immediately get a bike? Is it available for me? Can I reserve it? Or to make this seamless travel happening. So you can imagine with a lot of parties involved in this mobility hub, it will take time, and it's difficult to actually organize it from a total perspective of a mobility hub. So what we did during the mobility week is actually working on a way to simplify mobility hubs, to make it possible to create an open ecosystem for mobility hubs where different suppliers can be a part of this hub and not just one bike rental company or one car sharing company, but different companies can actually be part of the mobility hub, where there is also thought of how can we cater to the persons who have special needs in terms of what I mentioned, bike seats or navigation or any other additional accessories which you normally need. And also, how can we make sure that if it's not go right, how can we manage the not so happy flows in it? How do we work all these workflows? So we worked out different workflows, how it works in the mobility hub, what would be the ideal situations, what are not so much the ideal situations, and how to respond to that. And actually right now, and it's an ongoing project which we're working on, it's not just finished in the week during Mobility Week, but right now we're actually working on an exchange to put between the parties, the booking and the offering of the solutions. So it becomes more clear and more, single communication lines to each party. where we are in the middle, actually the block, we are exchange broker. We make sure that the data is divided and given to the right people. Of course, what you have to deal with in mobility with different suppliers is that they use different data standards, different communication methods. And for all parties to connect to each other, it's difficult and expensive. So by building this block in the middle, they all have to only make a connection with one other part of the whole mobility hub, which is the WeCity platform. And from there, we can exchange all the needed information to the different parties. This makes it more easier for everybody to exchange information while we're still facilitating an open ecosystem and everybody can join the system. So it's not closed and we do not have the solutions ourselves. It's always the market who offer the solutions or the apps or whatever is all being developed for the mobility hubs. We are just there to make sure that the data facilitation is there and that it's become more easy to use and more easy and cheaper for companies to join the mobility hub of the future. So this is very briefly what we've done during the Mobility Week, and it's still work in process, as I said. But if you have any questions or you want to know more about the Mobility Hub and how we look at this from a data perspective, then please feel free to contact me. All right.
Thank you so much, Anna-Marie. And we have time for a very brief questions and very brief answers, please, because we have around 7 minutes left for the webinar and I still have something to say after the questions. So I don't see questions in the Q&A box, but I know that my colleague Niklas has some questions for you.
Yeah. For Östersund, it's pretty much straightforward. I would like to know how many people have already participated in the scheme, and do you see growing numbers? And related to that, do you think that your measures already have an impact on the modal shift in the city?
Yes, thank you. I can answer to that. This project, as I mentioned, was launched a year ago, and it's developing the product all the time. And we as a municipality is kind of testers and co-developers of the product. We have used different user groups for different pilot phases of the project. So at some periods we have had like 50 to 100 people using the application, and then we have launched it to another user group and so on. During the Mobility Week, it was launched to the public as a pre-release of the application, and we saw that it was around 50 plus people, citizens that used it during the Mobility Week. So it wasn't that large number, but it was the first time it was like seen to the public. Right now we have around 100 people using it, and it's a group that I mentioned also. It's the winter biking campaign hosted by the city. Those people they use the application right now to earn points and to measure their statistics, biking statistics. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I probably that's what I was expecting by the numbers, because it takes a while to have word to mouth and to share this. One question to Utrecht, to Anna-Marie. You have mentioned the functioning of the mobility hubs, but when you're going to build them physically, are you going to build physical infrastructure, or are you going to refurbish buildings? So, for example, I have heard from other cities that they have used the old office space, which is not used during the pandemic, for cargo solutions with e-bikes, for example. What is your plan there, basically? You're muted.
Yeah, thank you. We are not physically building the construction, so we're focusing really on the data exchange, which means we would always work together with a infra company for the physical structures, which we also do in the Netherlands. And what you see in the Netherlands is basically, and it makes sense, most cities try to reuse the space, reuse buildings, what you say, to transfer them in mobility hubs. For example, also in gas stations, that they don't renew gas station license, but they actually want to transform them to mobility hubs. So that's a change we see. And of course, for new buildings or new developments, they're also integrated in existing buildings in the parking spaces. So they exchange parking spaces for mobility hubs.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm just trying to share my screen very quickly. Yes, so unfortunately we don't have more time for questions, but I think we have a pretty good overview about the mobility actions presented. We also had an additional mobility action which was planned to be present from Estonia, but unfortunately because of a last minute cancellation, we were not able to host them today. But looking at the time, maybe it's not a big problem at this point. And I would like just to talk a bit about the social media competition, which is going to be followed by this webinar. So additionally, as we gave the opportunity for the selected exemplary mobility actions to present their actions during this webinar to an audience, we are also going to open a social media competition next week, where we are going to share pictures and short details about the mobility actions selected on our social media channels, from Twitter to Facebook to Instagram. And we are encouraging all the mobility actions presented and the audience as well to engage with these posts, because the one who is going to win this social media competition is the mobility action which created and engaged with the most people, and this is measured by likes, retweets, or comments below the post on the social media. So we are going to be in touch with the selected mobility actions about the social media competition and the specific links. And for the audience, I would encourage you to follow the social media channels of European Mobility Week and engage with the mobility actions being present today. And I really would like to thank you for your attendance in today's webinar. Thank you for the presentations, and thank you for everyone who were engaged during the webinar. And we are going to be in touch. Please follow European Mobility Week, and we hope for an even bigger number of mobility actions in the campaign of 2022. Thank you so much, and have a nice day.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.